Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Reese Ryan, a visionary in wealth design and alternative finance. He's an expert in helping people design the life they truly desire, whether it's through innovative financial strategies like equity acceleration, confidently purchasing homes sight unseen, or building thriving communities. With a background in hospitality, real estate, and personal development, he brings a unique perspective on how to achieve financial freedom and personal growth. Welcome to the show, Reese.
Glad to be here. Truly delighted and honored to spend some time and share some insights or any thoughts with your audience and really being able to kind of just get to know you and what you got going on. So
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Reese, welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to learn from you about mastering wealth, finance, as well as personal growth. In this backdrop, we'll have our conversation. But first, Reese, let's understand a bit more about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
yeah, I love that. I mean, the origin story for me is actually growing up in the islands of Hawaii. So young surfer kid, again, there's the haves and have nots, there's the working class, the upper class. And so, again, kind of the formative years of my life were in customer service and hospitality, hotels, fine dining, things like that. And so for me, it was really the kind of the choice of go down academic routes, right? Pursue a career, looking at all the opportunities, just like any other young man would. And so I found my kind of start working in hospitality, but then also being able to benefit from mentors and role models, examples of what it looks like to own a business, to invest in real estate, to have some other options than just trading time for dollars. And so throughout the course of my life thus far, I've really learned how to excel in my work environment, but then not just work at my job, but then also learn what it is to be an entrepreneur, right? To learn how to take my money and buy me time, not just trade time for dollars. And so where I've gotten to this point in my career or my journey of my life has been taking some of that experience and then applying that to my own online small groups, building communities, working with clients, again, sharing some of the know-how and the skill sets that have really taken me from not just getting by, but then ultimately how to get ahead. So that's where I kind of find myself in this point in my life. Currently, I'm in California, which is, part of the U.S. And so really it's looking at taking scouting trips and traveling and being I'm a somewhat of a millennial, right? So being able to travel, work remotely, and really kind of design a life that wouldn't necessarily been the life I was given by default, but opting to, again, making the life choices that I think will serve me well in the future by creating a greater impact for those around me. So that's kind of a little bit about my background and kind of where I'm at these days.
Right, Reese. So from Hawaii to California means
Mhm.
how did it happen? It happened by on its own, or did you make it happen? There were things that you had to do. I want to understand what were the things that you did. How did
Yeah.
it? Did you do it by yourself, or they just happened along the way?
Yeah, and so I would say there's partially kind of the nurture nature kind of conversation. So again, there's inherently, I think, something that I can't explain. It's always been there that I've always wanted to be a jet setter, right? Wanting to travel, go see the world. I think part of that essence is again, growing up in the islands is very communal, right? There's a lot of travelers, whether it's from India, the Pacific, across the globe. So I've been immersed in different people's cultures. And so for me, it's always been, okay, where do I go to go travel? Right. So, I have some agendas of where I want to travel, across the world moving forward. But what ultimately led that was, again, partially the choice for me to not live my whole life on an island. So I'm not sure exactly your background, but Hawaii can be definitely small town vibe, right? So again, maybe there's some of your audience that might be rural. Some of my listeners, they're in the middle of nowhere in America. And so they're tapping into some of my content online or my small groups because they don't really have like a community around them that is like-minded and like valued. And so again, what prompted me to leave Hawaii, because obviously you're right, beautiful sunset, ocean, waterfalls, right? It's paradise. But again, to me, it's the belief the best version of myself is to travel, see the world, adopt different cultures, and be able to go out and live the best life that I can. And while Hawaii is great, it needed, there was a motivation for me to still be young enough to travel and see the world and do the things that I've chosen. And so LA was still kind of that closest proximity where I could still go home if I wanted to, still get those fixes, but then also kind of set up shop or home base for me to travel across the country and ultimately utilize some of my background, right? Whether that's hospitality and customer service, and then being able to do more real estate and more finance. Because very similarly to Hawaii, LA, Los Angeles is somewhat of a mecca, right? Whether it's Hollywood, whether it's finance, whether it's real estate, business, there's a lot of conventions that will come to Los Angeles. And so again, it's a place to be. So with me still being in this, formative years of my life, kind of in my early to mid 30s, being able to kind of make the most of, the cards that are in my hand to play. So that's kind of what led up to this point of I can do real estate, I can do restaurant pretty much anywhere. I can work remotely anywhere. And so with California being kind of that home base, again, you can go travel to outdoors. Like I like snowboarding, right? There's a lot of different outdoors activities that I enjoy doing. And so it was more logistics, being able to kind of be in the continental US. And so really it's just looking at all the resources I have available to me at any given time and saying, what's the best use of that? And so that's what's kind of prompted me. And, I'm looking at kind of the interim, where do I go from here? Is it traveling abroad, taking some time off of work, or being able to do what I'm doing more full-time, or again, relocating to maybe different states, from across the country, whichever makes the best use of my time. And again, where I'm going to reside. So.
Absolutely, absolutely, Reese. So you call yourself a favorite financial big brother and real estate guide. Tell us a bit about what you do and how you help people.
And I love that question because it really speaks to my core character, right? So I'm pretty crafty. I love the idea of being on your show because it's framed as a master class, right? Again, I don't know exactly where it comes from, but this essence of who I am as a person. I strive for excellence. I strive for mastery, whether that's work or life. Like I want to have a full and abundant life. Now, again, that transpires into some of these techniques, some of these untold banking methods. I'm very fortunate, and I'm not sure exactly how much can translate to your audience and kind of your legal codes and your laws and real estate and credit and all of that. But, with what I do here in America, it's learning the tax code, right? Some of the consumer protections for credit, mortgages, alternative finance, being able to raise capital, right? So right now I have a really great opportunity just for myself in that I have a silent partner, right? He sees the value, he sees integrity, the reliability, and has a substantial amount of resource or financial money that he wants to invest. He wants to get a good return, but he's ready to retire. So this is where we're piecing things together and saying, hey, he's going to operate this way, I'm going to operate that way, but we can still collaborate, we can work together. And so part of what it is I do, I have some online small groups, I have my clients, and saying, as a financial big brother, I can look out for a certain amount of people, right? I don't need to have a suit and tie, a nice sports jacket, corner office, license, brokerage, and sit here and say, here's high, medium, low risk and advise you. But really what I'm attempting to do with my brand of wealth artistry is create an experience saying, hey, look, I'm making these moves to some sort of wealth, right? Whether that's a portfolio, whether that's buying a business, having partners, joint ventures, whatever that exactly looks like, but helping some of my listeners and my audience see the value in themselves, right? Taking personal responsibility and saying, hey, is someone going to come rescue me? Is someone going to come save me? Or should I put some things in motion? Should I take the initiative? Can I have intention, right? So really having that belief that, I have the means, right? I can always improve, right? To me, it's working harder on myself than I do at my job, right? And so to me, there's the choice of Do I go work for someone else, or can I own a business, or can I start a company, or can I do XYZ? And so some of the things that I do just in my day to day is really being able to illustrate, draw a financial picture, whether that's tax, credit, real estate, business, retirement, life insurance policy. So some of these more advanced or complex strategies that you would get from a financial planner or advisor or a lawyer, but putting it in my own terms, right? So maybe this is one of my, I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves, but if I could say this one thing that's really shaped my philosophy, it's there's people less qualified doing what you're called to just because you haven't taken your chance. And that's one of my core beliefs. And that's what drives me to, again, take a chance and be a guest on a podcast with you, or, apply for a credit card, or go start a company, or, have conversations. And so to me, it really is, as a big brother, just looking out for someone and saying, hey, here's some things that I think you should think about doing. Really guiding people down the path of saying, should I buy a property down the road, in your backyard, maybe out of state? And so really looking at stacking advantages is really kind of one of my concepts, is saying, if I'm going to earn money, that's one thing, but can I get tax advantage? Can I get bonus miles? So one of the things that I do when I travel is if I'm going to spend the money for whatever expense or bill that I would have, if I get a new credit card here in America, you can get a sign-up bonus, right? So the last few trips I've taken have been on bonus miles because I spent the money for my rental property. I was going to fix it up. And so I got a new credit card, which then was able to give me 100,000 bonus miles. Well, that might pay for a trip to Dallas. That might get me a trip to Cancun. So again, it's really being able to get more out of what it is that you would do without really being aware of some of those kind of strategies. And so that's really what it looks like for me to be this big brother, is, again, be able to share what it is that I do, but on my own terms, right? Not have to be pretend, but really adopt and kind of embrace that authenticity, right? Because I think you could appreciate having people that are like-minded, like-valued, but there's people that just talk the talk, right? They don't necessarily back it up. And so again, it really is crucial to find people that can really not just talk about it, but be about it, right? Really having that authenticity.
Absolutely, Reese. So those people who come to you for your assistance, your guidance,
Mhm.
what is it that, in terms of challenges that you see that these people face, what is it that they come to you for?
Right. And so again, I think that's a question that I could break up into maybe 3 tiers. And so I've designed online small groups, which might be just the average Joe, right? The day-to-day person, they're still trying to figure out how to have, their finances in order, just basic fundamental things. And I call that kind of base camp, right? That's that surface level. In my mind's eye, I'm on a quest for financial mastery, right? So this might be a trip that might take 3 to 5 years. So I'm preparing for a journey, right? And so kind of that first tier for someone that maybe paycheck to paycheck, or maybe they're consolidating debt, maybe they're not good with money. I have this group community to support one another. And so again, that's really being able to say, hey, are you living beyond your means? What are some of those things that you need to be disciplined in? And then I have kind of this second tier, which is a little bit more advanced. I call them my graduates, right? Individuals that are kind of at that almost that same reach of me, gainfully employed, maybe a good credit score, maybe they have a rich uncle somewhere, they have some means to making some moves, right? So again, being able to say, hey, here's, the tax code, or here's the credit cards that work for you, or here's the properties or these markets that would be beneficial for you. So again, just sharing some of that insight and saying, hey, if you were going to spend those monies anyway, is it in precious metals? Is it in cryptocurrencies? Is it in the stock market? Life insurance? So again, just really saying, what are the vehicles that are best suited for you? And then this last tier, which I'm most excited about, is again, kind of a new frontier for me, where I'm leveling up the value that I create for those around me. And so my executive class is really being able to say, hey, kind of DIY done for you, right? So on one hand, it's DIY. Here's, here's some of the things I think about. Here's some books, or here's some philosophies, take it and run with it. Versus, some of this higher end or more premium version where I'll go source all that information for for that kind of more higher net worth individual, someone that, has maybe $250,000 in net worth, having a substantial retirement account, having a portfolio, and really being more of a fractal executive assistant, saying, hey, what's this specialty thing? So there's a residential developer that I work with here in LA, and they're doing, they've done over 100 development deals in their career, right? So they're very high level. And so again, I'm operating with part of their team and saying, let me handle all of the conversations around raising capital, right? So then you have to have a little bit of discretion. There's people's bank accounts and amounts. And so you have to have the utmost integrity with people's finances, their retirement accounts or life savings. And so I basically have 3 different tiers. One is kind of that entry level. Hey, I'm just kind of getting started. I don't really know where to go. I need to get clarity and definition. There's kind of that advanced group that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I just need a direction. I need a buddy to go do it with. And then there's kind of that last one where it's like, hey, I'm too busy. I have all the money. I have all the resources, but I'm lacking in time. So I need the trusted operator that can do the thing that say they're going to do and really kind of have that skill set or that know-how.
Right, Reese. So you also talk about, living life to the fullest. Mm-hmm. And when we talk of living life to the fullest, it reminds me also of the credit card debt. A lot of people think, live now, live life to the fullest, use your credit card and take debt as much as possible to live life to the fullest. How do you see this, living life to the fullest? How is it possible? Do you need debt? Do you need to use credit card? Or is it when you say that it is something beyond that? How do you tell about that to a lot of people in the US?
And again, that's a quintessential question, right? And so to me, again, I have business, I have real estate, I use credit, I have leverage, I use debt, but fundamentally the people that I'm closest to, they know and they understand where I'm coming from, that I'm not over leveraged. I'm not overextended, right? So there's a sweet spot. So some of your audience may or may not be familiar with, but there's a Dave Ramsey, right? So there's a financial guy here and he's talking about debt is bad. Don't use credit cards. Don't use it. But within our American system, because of the economics, basically you're going to get left behind. You're going to be in poverty because you can't save your way into wealth. You can't work your way into wealth. There's not enough time for you to catch up with kind of the dollars that we have in circulation. So again, if you want to make calculated moves, for me, I bought a property. I bought a house and I rent it out. And so I've upkept it. And so just because I've owned it, it's gone up in value, right? That's that competitive advantage that if I didn't have that, me just trading time for dollars at a job is not going to cut it, right? And so when it comes to debt, I think it's a tool, right? Just like a scalpel. If you're not trained, you could really hurt yourself. But if you're a doctor, that's exactly what you need to make that precision cut. So when it comes to the tools, again, I think you need to have self-control. You need to have financial discipline. These are things that have me paid the dues to get to this point so that I don't just go buck wild and wind up being an indentured servant to someone else, right? So this is, I think, the core of the matter is having contentment, right? And so this is a little bit more on the meta or the metaphysical side of it. The mentality, right? If you're saying, oh, I get a new credit card, then I deserve it. Let me go buy a boat. Let me go travel. Let me rack up a balance. And now I don't have the way to pay it off, right? Like a lot of people do that. And so for me, it's really identifying, okay, what is my means? So how much money comes in, how much goes out, what's left over. And so one of the principles that's really helped me move forward is a profits first mentality, right? So every dollar comes in, I'm going to allocate money for my financial future, right? I'm going to pay me first, even with my business. Okay, business gets paid first and then all the expenses. And so whatever's left over, that's the play money versus saying, oh, well, I've got a free open balance. Let me just run up a usage. But at the end of the day, now you're going to be serving the banks. Now you're going to be serving the credit card. And so really, I think it's important to live your life to the fullest on your terms. And so I think with the younger generation, I'm really concerned that their prize is gratification, right? It's that happiness. Oh, I feel good. Versus, again, some of the principles that I've kind of developed, which is more along the lines of satisfaction, right? I work hard, but then I play hard, versus again just saying, oh, easy come, easy go. I got a credit card, I can swipe it, I can care about it later. But eventually that will catch up to you, right? So to me, it's one of those fundamentals of, yes, I get a new credit card, but then I have the money to pay for the thing and not have a balance, right? So that's the difference between, having 20%, 25% interest on a credit card. That's not good for no one except for the credit card companies. So again, it can be very challenging to open yourself up to that type of opportunity or risk without necessarily having the training or the discipline to handle it, right? They kind of say in the superhero movies, with great responsibility or with great power comes great responsibility. So it's one of those things that, you have to put yourself in check. If you're just going to live large and run up a card, eventually that does catch up to you. So again, like it's really important to, again, find the people that are playing the game that really give you an accurate picture is the way I would say it.
Right. So in the end, in a nutshell, what advice, what tips would you like to give as big brother, and a real estate guide or anything else that you know about is in terms of personal growth habits? What are some of the things in a nutshell would you like to tell people so that they can utilize them?
Yeah, and again, I think it's a little bit cliche to start out this way, but I've adopted the belief that it's more important to be on the journey than the destination, right? So through the course of last few years, I'm not exactly sure your guys' experience with 2020 and certain things and all the things, but for myself, I've had to pivot, right? Whether the government says I can't work or I'm not essential, or hey, here's some benefits or here's some of all the things. For me, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a high income professional, whether you're, an entry level, minimum wage employee, regardless of where you find yourself, you have to be able to take yourself serious. So for me, I've always gotten to this point in my belief that I have to work harder on myself in order to progress, right? So I could choose to just get by, or I could choose to dedicate some extra time, some spare time. I'm constantly taking people to lunch. I'm going to networking events. I'm listening to audiobooks. I'm working on myself. So I'm crafting the life of mastery for myself, because no one else is going to do it for me, right? And so to me, I would really encourage anyone that listens to this episode, really take it to heart that you have anything you set your mind to, you can do it. And so to me, it's kind of this concept that I share with my guys, which is you have to realize the thought, you have to visualize it, right? You have to think it through, you have to speak it into existence, you have to actualize it, and eventually it'll materialize. And so where I've found myself, again, in many different, as a borrower, as a worker, as an owner, I've found myself in different capacities that I have to put in the time to allow things to work in my favor, right? So stacking those advantages are really helpful. Now, I think that the best piece of advice I could share with anyone is if there's something that won't go away, like imagine in your mind's eye, there's this idea, whether you want to be an artist or you want to have daycare or you want to make things, like whatever the thing is, whatever makes you. If there's someone that's doing it, go ask them how it's done, or go find a book or go find a program, because the best lessons are learned from someone else. Now, again, I think the last thing I would kind of say is kind of a question I always ask myself, and I hope your audience has asked themselves this as well. When's the best time to plant a tree, right? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. So again, it really is, I think, important for any of your audience or my people to take action, and really even just for someone like myself coming on this podcast, being a part of different podcasting platforms, spreading the word, having more awareness, all of these things are a reflection to me that I'm taking action. I'm designing certain sequence of steps in order for me to accomplish my goals. And so it's just a matter of showing up, putting in the work, asking the right questions, because I think that's really the key to success. I hope all of your listeners and your audience can really appreciate life will keep asking you the same questions if you haven't learned the lesson. So to me, it's always sometimes important to pause and ask a better question. Maybe it is from someone that is more experienced in what you're doing, or listening to a podcast, or whatever the case may be. But really being able to, I think, take the time to decide what you want to do, and then keep showing up and keep taking the actions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's much to learn from you, Reese, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more from you. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
So the best way to connect would be, again, on the screen, we have Wealth Artistry. So that is my brand. I primarily am on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm also on LinkedIn. And then I have recently started doing things on Spotify. And eventually I will be taking the Wealth Artistry name on all of the podcasting platforms. But again, that's on my to-do list, and I'll be getting all that up to speed. But the best place would be Instagram if you're on there, Spotify, and or Facebook.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much, guys.